Hi, I'm Michelle Gebde-Corns. I'm the founder of Eternal Being. This is our 21st Central Healing podcast today, and I have welcomed Kev Bailey with me today. So, would you like to introduce yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm Kev Bailey and I work under two names. If I'm on my own, Connected Therapies. If I'm working with my partner, then it's the Uncommon Heartfelt Touch. I'm a healer. I do weird stuff.
We like weird stuff.
Good. That's all right then. I'm based in Long Eaton, which is on the outskirts of Nottingham, but do regular venues in Birmingham, Leicester, Manchester, London.
And we're welcoming him to Eternal Being with the weird crew.
Right, brilliant, thank you.
So this is another reason why I brought you here today, Kev. So we could get out there to the people that watch our podcast, but to spread the word out there, because a lot of people don't understand healing. And
No.
when I met you for the first time, a mutual friend of ours and somebody that you've actually treated, just couldn't stop his praising about you. And I had to meet you. So, and then I met you and I was like,
And you've never been the same since.
I fell in love with you. I fell in love with you because you've got a great sense of humour. You're so in tune with people, and that's rare, really rare. So then when it comes to healing, it's genuine. Like you can just feel it. You can just feel it. As a healer myself, you can just, you know,
Yes.
you just know.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring you here to spread the word on what you actually do, but also to go through the different principles that you actually do, because a lot of people won't understand that and how you join it in.
Okay.
So how does it work?
Okay.
What's the first step?
The first step is actually talking and communicating and finding out why the person, the client, wants to come and have a healing in the first place.
Yeah. How would they know that though? You know, like, I know the answer of that, but you know, if somebody is feeling out of whack, or you know, how would they know?
Sometimes they just ring up and say, I've got a blockage in my life and they can't move forward.
Yeah.
Other times they ring up because they've got an illness, they've been through all the normal medical system.
Yeah.
And they've either been written off or told that they can't be helped. And so as a last resort, they come to somebody like me and we say, oh, yes, we can help you. In a majority of cases, I'm not saying in all, we don't necessarily cure people, but maybe we can either reduce the symptoms. And we don't cure people anyway, because the person themselves cure themselves, whether they realise it or not. But we just help to open the doorways.
Give them the tools.
Yeah, give them the tools, as you say, to heal themselves. But we also we cover things that they've not even thought of that may be messing them up in some way. Normally, I'd say 95% of cases, it's all emotional trauma and stress that they've been through in the past. And even if it happened 20, 30, 40 years ago, it's probably caught up with them now. And that's why it's affecting them. And then the other people just come because they're recommended. Some come because they're curious. Sometimes it's the universe that guides them to us, and they don't really know why they're there, but they've just been given this message that they should come and see you.
So they contact you, or they contact the place that you're working at, or the venue and so on. And then in that first meeting, what happens?
In the first meeting, I would probably sit down and explain to them how the healing is going to work.
Yeah.
But I also ask them, if it's a 2-hour session, which I try to aim for because it may take that long to clear all the emotional stuff, I ask them their personal history, how they got on with mum and dad, brothers and sisters, were they bullied at school, did they clash with any teachers, have they been bullied in adult life, dodgy partners, and by dodgy partners I mean partners that may have mistreated you, things like that. Any accidents, loss of pets, because people think more about their animals than they do humans.
Well, I've got 5 dogs, so what does that say?
Wow, okay. Yeah, but it's good in your house at feeding time.
Yeah, feeding time on 3 children as well.
Yeah, so it could be anything, and grief as well. You know, people blame themselves, and even if sometimes people don't realise that they've been through a lot of stress and trauma because it isn't one big event.
They don't recognise it, do they?
Yeah, no, it's a load of little events,
Yeah.
and blokes especially, because we're big and hard and we're not allowed to show our emotions, and it's a stiff upper lip. However, it catches up with us, as it has me later on in life, and it's made me realise I've had to go look at myself as well,
Yeah.
and why I've created my illnesses recently, and it's all about my past, my childhood, a little bit in adult life as well.
Yeah.
But yes,
So, going back to you then.
okay.
Going back to you. So, where did you see? I mean, you're ex-military, aren't you? So tell us a bit about that, you know, because
Okay, so
to understand the case history of yourself.
well, let's start at the beginning then,
Yeah.
because when I was a child, I was probably quite spiritual, although I never realised it. But I used to like being in the woods and playing in the woods, and
Like a lot of us, and then we're distracted from our path because we're told to.
But I used to go and I'd see things that most people don't get to see, like I've seen a stoat catch a rabbit,
Wow.
and I actually thought it was a girl getting raped because the rabbit screamed.
Oh.
And because I went round then to see what it was, and then saw this stoat carting this rabbit off. So things like that, I was very good at sneaking around in the woods and looking at wildlife and things. However, I got bullied at infant school in Hatfield near London, and then my parents immigrated to South Africa, and I got bullied over there by a guy who lived in our block of flats. And then we came back, and my father enrolled me in an all-boys school in Plymouth. And I thought, I'm not going
I've
to
got
get bullied
goosebumps now. Look at that. I'm not pretending. I'm so sensitive.
So he enrolled me in this all-boys school, and I thought, I'm not going to get bullied here. So I put a front up, and I became a school nutter. So it wasn't so much fighting, but they taught us how to make chlorine gas in the chemistry lab, in a fume cupboard. So I'd get a few quid off the lads on a Friday dinner time. I'd
Ducking and diving.
Sneak up to the chemistry lab, make chlorine gas, but leave the fume cupboard door open and all the school doors. So the school filled with chlorine gas. And
For God's sake.
we all got to go home early on a Friday afternoon. Or I'd got there
You're
and
a character.
potassium
I
or
love
sodium
that.
down the sink, and it catches light when it hits water. And they'd have to get the fire brigade in. But my
We're not
father...
advising anybody to do this.
No,
but
please don't. So my father was always...
These are not recommendations.
called down the school, and slowly but sure the punishments from my dad got worse. He was an ex-military copper.
Yeah.
I'm an Aquarian anyway, so I'm a rebel. And then the harsher the punishments got, so I've had the belt from him, the cane and all sorts. The more I rebelled, I started hanging around with biker gangs in Plymouth on the fringes, until one day my father and I think he was accusing me of something I hadn't done, and he was hitting me, so I hit him back. And I think we were both astonished because I knocked him across the kitchen, and he got to realise I was a bit bigger than he thought I was. And so he asked me to leave home, and I was probably about 16 and a half. I'd already tried to join the army, but they offered me the infantry, so I wasn't really interested. I wanted a trade. So I moved back up to London, living with my gran for a bit. She had mental health issues, but I've been working with a Sikh guy. So I ended up moving in with him and his family. And so I got to the point where I could eat curries hotter than they could, which was lovely. But then I joined the army at 17 and a half. Why I joined the army, I don't know, because being a rebel and not liking rules and regulations, but
Your
if
path
anybody's
was told to go that way.
Yeah, I can understand now when looking back.
Yeah, but at the time.
But even joining the army, I mean, if people remember the programme Soldier, Soldier, then I was Tucker. I was always in trouble for something or other, some scheme or whatever. So anyway, I've done 12 and a half years in the army. I left, I come
What
out.
did you do in the army? What was your...
I was a vehicle mechanic.
Yeah.
I left at the rank of corporal. The main reason I left was I'd been attached to the paratroopers in Aldershot, and they're fitness freaks, and I was totally the opposite. So I volunteered for Northern Ireland to get away from them, and then they were coming back to Ireland, to my barracks, for the first time since Bloody Sunday, and I thought, no, let's get out of here. So that's why I signed off. I took up martial arts because I was unfit when I left the army, which is another reason why I was trying to escape the paras, and became fitter. But I also started to learn a little bit about meditation and things like that. When I left the army, I started selling and ended up as a packaging sales manager, which is why I ended up in the Midlands. But then that went wrong, so I ended up buying a pub. And the pub gave me, I was pretty good at communication and relating to people anyway, but the pub gave me an even better experience of that. And not only that, in the army, they teach you to be alerts. They want everybody to be alert. So it's a bit of a joke, I'm alert, yeah. So when you go to Northern Ireland or somewhere like that, anything that's slightly out, you know that there's something going to happen, or there may be a bomb planted there or something like that. So in a pub environment, you get to sense energies there as well about who may come in, who's a bit dodgy, who to watch because they've had a few beers and they're about to kick off and stuff like that. And so you get on it before it gets to that stage and help them out the door, if you like. Anyway, I just repaired my relationship with my dad after all those years, and then he decided he wanted to check out, and he was in intensive care for a good couple of months in Plymouth. He had septicemia, but he had a dodgy heart valve, and we had to make the decision to turn the machines off, which greatly messed me up because we just got to the point where the relationship was good, and then he was taken away. So the anger was horrendous.
Yeah.
And then running the pub and trying to keep Powder Your Nose Brigade and the Village Idiots out was making me more angry. And then I decided I needed to do something. So I was reading book reviews. I don't read book reviews, and it was in the Express, and it was Lorna Burns' Angels in Your Hair. And my ex was going into town. I asked her to get me that book, and she looked at me as if I'd fallen down the stairs. Anyway, she got me the book, and I read it, and it had quite a profound effect on me. It made me quite emotional.
That's good.
And then I was downstairs in the pub having a conversation with somebody, and she says, I know a guy that will sort you out. Now, up until this point, I didn't believe in anything spiritual, load of poppycock, proved it. So anyway, this medium came down and kind of done a rescue job on me. And we were having this conversation, and the pub was shut in the back room. He was crying because he could feel my emotions from my old man, and obviously he could see mine.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a sob fest, if you like. Anyway, he was too far away for me to go to his place for meditation. So then I had another conversation with somebody in the pub. He says, my mate goes to a place down the road. So I went, and after about the second, third time, I started to see things and feel things. And, oh, okay, righto. There is more to life than you think, you prat. So, but this lady, Sally Woffin, she taught spiritual healing. So I've done a year's spiritual healing with her, 3 years kinesiology, and 2 years crystal healing. So I went to the Corinthian Church at Hena to get more hands-on experience of healing. But I still knew I had an issue with my dad. And so I got recommended to a lady called Jeannie Rogers near Banbury. He was a shamanic healer. And I went down, and she picked up the issue with my dad. She also done soul retrieval, 3 soul retrievals on me. One to a young lady I knew when I first joined the army, and we split up. One to my dad. He had a part of my soul and another part of his, and we had to swap. And then there was a part swimming out to sea at the time, and that was me and my ex splitting up. So she brought those back. Oh, and at the beginning she said she picked up I had a heart issue, and it felt like she had a 12-inch red hot knitting needle, and she was shoving it through my heart for about 3 or 4 minutes. I was in absolute agony, but then it started to sort it. And then the last thing is, my granddad and dad were both in unhappy marriages, They were both in jobs that they were coming up to retirement, but so they couldn't leave, but they hated the jobs. And they both retired, and then within a couple of years of retiring, they both died of heart issues. And I was going the same way, obviously, because Jeannie had picked up on my heart. So she made me journey to the Hall of Akashic Records, where I met this guy that looked like Jesus, in all the robes and the beard and all the rest of it. And he had a piece of parchment in his hand, and he signed it, and I signed it, and it was about breaking the chain. And then I gave him a pearl on the proviso that when I came back to reality, I would go and give a pearl. So a couple of months later, I went down the local river with a couple of pearls, done a bit of a ceremony, chucked them in the river. And then I was driving back home, and as I got about halfway home, I got pushed right back in my driving seat. And I went, what the hell's that? And then I realised, I don't do subtle, so they're letting me know that I fulfilled the contract and that everything was sorted. And then I started to invite, because I was doing this part-time between my job at Rolls-Royce, I started to invite Jeannie up to come and do some of my harder clients that I was struggling to fix.
Yeah.
So she kind of took me on as a unofficial apprentice, so I ended up doing loads with her. I'd done her shamanic healing course, etc., etc. And so I've not looked back. But I don't do my shamanic healing in a traditional way, although I can drum and go and journey. I prefer people to tell me what they've been through, and then I take them to go and get their power back, or their soul part back, or cut cords, because I think that's more powerful.
I agree.
Yeah. And so,
because you're tailoring everything for that client.
Yes. So I combine it with crystals, because there's normally a crystal grid under the bed, and I've got 2 smoky quartz house bricks that I put between their ankles, because again I'm a bloke, so I don't do subtle, they're about that big. But I use kinesiology as well, because I put them in a state of weakness. And
How do you do that?
Okay, so to put somebody in a state of weakness and you get them on the couch, I would muscle test, and if the arm would probably stay strong. And then I get them to think about something that has upset, or the reason they're stressed or traumatised, and the arm will go weak. And then once it's gone weak, you just tap the ankles together, put my crystals between them, and then they're locked into a state of weakness.
And a lot of people wouldn't really, think people that are not believers, were like, what? How? Trust me.
I've had
it works.
Loads of blokes come in.
It really, really does work. And I want to come back to the 3 parts, the 3 elements that you use within a treatment with someone, to just explain each one. You've explained a little bit within a treatment, but just explain when you do them individually and what they mean. Does that make sense?
Kinesiology is probably the easiest to explain.
And your training as well, because you have to be trained to do all of this. This isn't mumbo jumbo.
It took me 3 years and I'm still learning.
Yeah, every day.
Because there's various different modes of kinesiology. So I do applied kinesiology, but I know there's systematic, there's psychology, there's loads. But kinesiology works on muscle testing. There's 17 muscle tests you would do on a person to do a full balance. Each one relates to an organ and a meridian line. And depending on...
What's a meridian line? I know what a meridian
line is. Okay, so Chinese medicine works on Chinese medical principles. And you have 17 meridian lines in your body, which are like energy lines.
Yes, totally.
But can become blocked. Yeah. Either through surgery, stress, trauma, accidents. And
when you're out of whack.
Yes. So we would do the muscle testing. Your body tells us what it wants fixing and what order it wants fixing. And then by running meridian lines, lymphatic drainage, and holding neurovascular points on your head, we fix them. We know we fix them because we'll test again, and the muscles that were weak should go strong. When I'm doing the emotional stuff, I hold a point on the shoulder here, which is on the stomach meridian, because this is where we hold all our emotions, most of them. So it takes it down the arm. And then if we've suffered trauma, stress, or we're still in it, we can get stuck in fight, flight, or freeze, which means all the blood goes to the reptile brain at the back of your head. So we hold 2 points on the front, which brings that back to the front. It helps you to think more logically and takes you out of fight and flight, because fight and flight is only supposed to be temporary. The dinosaur turns up, you're away from it, and then everything should go back to normal. But if you get stuck in it, you then start to overload your system.
Which is most of the generation.
Yeah, especially
really
today.
is.
And there's stresses out there you don't even realise, like mobile phones and things like that. Yeah. So once you get stuck in fight and flight, you can start to overload your adrenals. You mess up your hormones and your thyroid.
Yeah.
As you know, you mess up your stomach. Your stomach doesn't start to digest your food properly, which means you don't get vitamins and minerals, which is a deeper stress.
Yeah.
And it's just a whole vicious circle. So the idea is, and also while you're holding these points, they bring things out of your subconscious that you buried there that you don't even know is lurking in that filing cabinet, brings it to the front, and so it helps you to release it. And it's weird. Sometimes I go to shows and I would do like a half-hour taster session, and part of that is I do a body scan. So my hand's about 12 inches over their body and find negative energies in it. And I've had lots of ladies that they give me that look that when I scan and I go over women's bits and I pick it up, it's either a hormone imbalance going on or somebody has forced them to do something they didn't want.
Yeah.
And it's just, they look at you, I say, don't answer this question, but it's and or. And then you know which ones have been forced because the look they give you is out. How do you know that?
Yeah.
But it's
your root
just
chakra,
amazing. Yeah.
you know? So they're not grounded and they're
No.
out of whack and out of balance, and it's such a taboo subject, and it shouldn't be, you know,
Yes.
for the root chakra, you know.
Yeah.
People want to skim around it and think that trauma doesn't happen down there, even down to a lady giving birth, and if it's a traumatic birth, can be leaving negativity,
Of
and then
course.
they're not being able to relate to the husband or their partner because of the trauma that they've had in that
Well, you
situation.
even get that in relationships,
Yeah.
because if you've had a series of relationships or a relationship that's
Or lost a
really,
baby.
really bad, you may then leave that partner and get a new one, but you may not be quite as committed because you're scared of getting hurt again.
Yes.
And then because you're not quite as committed, that partner realises, and then that relationship may fall apart or not realise its full potential. And you could go on through relationships like that and carry on picking people that are unsuitable for you. Whereas if you went back and healed the first relationship, you would raise your vibration, and then the next partner that comes in would be more suited and of a higher level, if you like. I don't want to sound like egotistical or whatever, but of a higher level, so they wouldn't behave like your original partner in the first place.
Yeah.
And like you say, with trauma of losing babies, 9 times out of 10, mum blames herself. It's something she didn't do or did do during the pregnancy. She thinks it's her fault. But it isn't. It was all meant to be as it's meant to be. I believe before we come here, we make contracts with people. We sit down with our guides and guardian angels, and we agree that we want to experience certain things, and then we're born and we forget about it. And then lo and behold, people come in stage left, do whatever it is they contracted to do, and then exit stage right, and then you're left in the middle of the blubbering mess because you've been caught up as a human in the drama and the trauma.
And then you're carrying it around with you, and you carry it into the next relationship
Yeah.
or the next workplace or bringing up your kids. It can be anything. It can be absolutely anything.
But if you learn, and it's quite hard to do, to step back from the drama and the trauma and think, what the hell did I want to learn from this? And then it all starts to go away because you have the realisation. It may happen again a bit later on, just a test that you've dealt with it. But it goes, and then again.
And it is a skill.
You may have a new experience to go through. But with loss of kids, I always think that sometimes, especially with a new soul, it might be doing a dummy run. It might just want to come along for the 3-6 months or whatever in the mother's stomach to experience that love, and then that's all it needed, so it goes away again. So there are lots of reasons why you may unfortunately lose children, and you may have agreed to experience that as well, but there is no blame. But that's what most ladies do, is they beat themselves up because they believe it's blame. You know?
And that forgiveness as well, to be able
Yes.
to release that pain is so powerful. It really is, you know. And when you've done the amount of training that you've done to be able to do the therapy, to enjoy all of those
Yes.
skills together, is on another level. You know, I've done Shamil breathing, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I use it daily, the breath work and so on. It's helped me massively to overcome issues and problems in my own life. And unraveling that muscle fascia within oneself is a skill. It really is a skill. But also, as you've experienced as a practitioner, that you have to work on yourself. You have to work on yourself to overcome, to be the best practitioner you possibly can.
Yes.
And you do it every day.
Yeah.
Be aware of it.
Indeed. Yes.
Be aware of it. Be
Yeah.
aware. Why am I out of whack? Why has that upset me so much? Why is this the, you know? And by understanding it, you can deal with it, and you can put the right tools in to be able to have a better life.
And also, as well as healers, 9 times out of 10, we call ourselves wounded healers because we've been through the most trauma
Yeah.
to clear ourselves
Yeah.
the most, so we can be even a
lot
better
of
healer and
pain.
channel more energy. So that's we kind of touched on kinesiology there,
Yeah.
and then a bit of my beliefs with energy therapy and shamanic healing. But shamanic healing is taking power back from people. So whoever may have mistreated you,
Yeah.
I get you to go and get your power back off of them. You get to tell them whatever it is you really wanted to tell them and relive the events at the time. But when I tell you to do that, you do it in your head, because it's none of my business. It's between you and them.
Yeah.
And therefore, the client won't hold back on what they're saying to people. I then get them to forgive them, no matter how bad the trauma might have been, because you're not forgiving them for their sake, you're forgiving them for yours.
Totally.
Yeah. And then I get you to forgive yourself. Wrong place, wrong time, you blamed yourself, whatever it might be. If it's still somebody in your life, perhaps a current partner or something like that, and you are in love with them, all sort of balls of love, but then you get to say to them how you would like that relationship to go forward and improve. And then we ask for divine help to go and have a word with their divine partners to sort it out. But what normally happens is they get it on an energetic basis. So even if it's not just a partner, I've had it where somebody has been bullied at work and they're about to go into a meeting with HR and the bully,
Yeah.
and I kind of get them to rehearse what's going to happen. So when they walk in, they've already taken the power back from the bully. They're standing in their power, and they go in full of confidence because they've already said it. And then when it happens on the day, the bully's already got it, so he's perhaps not as bad as he might have been. And then it helps the outcome because you've also asked for divine intervention for everybody's highest
And the
good.
courage, and you're prepared.
Yes.
You're prepared instead of going into, into the devil's cavern.
Yeah.
You're aware of what's going to prepare yourself, and that those skills that you're helping, and those tools and assessments you can bring into everyday life in a situation that you've had trauma, that you've been put in a situation that you can't control. You can control any situation. You have a choice.
Yes.
Have
Of
a
course.
choice.
And we all have the power to control those
Yes.
situations. And unfortunately, mainly with women, because of what you go through in life and the way things have been programmed for the last 2,000 years,
Yeah.
you guys don't have as much self-confidence, perhaps, or self-worth. If you feel that way about yourself, you have low self-esteem, no confidence, you'll attract more things into your life to try and teach you that lesson, to give you the self-confidence and the self-esteem to move forward. And then, of course, when you get to that point, that's when you may pick the new partner that's more worthy of you, your workplace may change and you'll get promoted, and it's just amazing
So
how
powerful.
it happens. Yes.
7 years ago, I started that part of my journey
Yeah.
with a friend, and I've never looked back. And so many other doors have opened up to me.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And I mean that. I mean that totally. Because a lot of what we're saying, there's bits in there people are going to go, what?
Yeah.
Really? Guardian angel, this, that. But whatever that might be, if it works, it works.
That's right. Doesn't
It
matter,
works.
does it?
If you're having a better life,
Yeah.
and you feel in control of it in the right way, that you're happy,
Yeah.
and you're bringing happiness to others, and your life experience is better on this planet, isn't it worth a try?
Indeed it is. You've got nothing to lose
You've
at the
got
end of the
nothing
day.
to lose. And a lot of people, just the barrier of making that choice to make that phone call or to contact
Yeah.
is the biggest move, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, they've actually admitted it. Some people will be thinking about it, you know.
Well, the fact that you've actually admitted it
Yeah.
in a way is starting the healing process.
It's a cycle
That
of
you
change.
have an issue, yeah. Whereas if when you're trying to just keep holding it in, putting a false front on,
Yeah.
etc., all you're doing is making yourself ill
Yeah.
eventually.
And unhappy.
Yes.
And that projects out. It does project out.
Well, it was quite funny when I started at Rolls-Royce. I got talking to a couple of blokes who were open, if you like,
Yeah.
to this. But of course, I had a beard and the long hair, and I was wearing.
Explain what you said to me
Blue
when we
oval.
first met each
Well,
other. It
yeah.
did make me laugh.
So I'm walking around.
What did they used to call you?
Hagrid,
I love it. I love it. It makes me smile so much, Hagrid.
because of what I did as well. And these two used to say, "Well, don't tell the others because they'll take the mickey
Not
out of you."
everything is what it seems from the outside, guys, and that's what most people go wrong.
Yeah.
Their perception of
Yes.
stuff, and the people get their perceptions completely wrong, and that's why it made me smile so much. Because I live in my little magical world.
Yeah.
Hagrid, I love it.
Yeah, this big horrible hairy git
I love it.
is into all this weird and wonderful airy fairy stuff. Yeah. So they used to say, "Don't talk to the others." Then all start
Don't
taking
talk
the
to
mickey.
Hagrid.
But I did start talking to some of them, and they'd all go, "Yeah, load of rubbish." And then a bit later on in the shift, they'd come up and say, "Yeah, Kev, I've experienced this, or I'm feeling this," and so all this thing that they didn't believe, they actually did believe, but they just didn't want to admit it in front of their mates. So yeah. And I've had a guy come to me with tennis elbow, and he came to the session. I said, "You're stressed," because of doing muscle testing. He kept, "You're stressed. You're stressed. What are you stressed about? Is it the job, marriage?" "No, nothing. Not stressed."
Oh, the amount of times you
Anyway,
hear
we
that.
carried on, and then I said, "No, I still can't get rid of this because you're stressed." And then it came out, his mum's in a care home. She's got dementia. His sister and him take alternate
Turns.
days to go and visit. He doesn't want to visit because his mum doesn't recognise him and she's saying weird stuff and things like that. So he feels guilty that he doesn't want to go. And this was all the stress that was building up. He didn't like to see his mum like that. And then when we finally admitted it and went through it, he released it. His tennis elbow went away.
Because it'll go to the weakest point of your body,
Yes.
which was obviously his elbow, but
Yeah.
that would be repetition of activities he's doing at work and all the
Yeah.
rest of it. So it's gone to the weakest point, and it's
Elbows is all
mental.
about bringing stuff
Yeah,
to you, isn't
totally.
it? Yeah, and he was trying to keep it. at
Yeah,
arm's
push it
length.
away.
Yeah.
Push it away.
Yeah.
But, you know, I find it so fascinating that so many people don't understand different therapies and understand how important it is to tailor your treatments for clients and
Yes.
bringing and incorporating the principles that you're doing. You're giving the best outcome.
There's kind
Than
of a
just staying
standard
down one-
way you
yeah.
may do it, but it is tailor-made to each
Yeah,
client because
yeah.
everybody is different.
Yeah.
Part of the other thing about shamanic healing is we do extraction, so doing
Yeah.
that body scan, finding the negative energy, pulling it out. We cut cords to people that are no longer in your life, but they may still have the attachment there because they may be still draining your energy. I also talk to people about protection and going into places like a negative workforce and you're walking in and they're all sucking you away because they're all
Well, you feel it
vampires.
as soon as you walk in a room.
Yeah. Yes.
and I've said this, I had it yesterday actually, and I had a lovely review that came through this morning, and the person she was 6 months ago to the person that she is now are completely two different
But isn't
people.
that
But
more
I
rewarding
see,
than the money or anything?
Yeah,
It's the fact that you managed to get to that
that's why I
position.
do what I do.
Yes.
That to
You
me
and me
is
both.
why,
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
And it's like you say, everybody has their journey, and you can't do their journey for them because then they don't learn their lessons and get the experience. But you can guide them and give them the tools to better cope with that journey,
Yeah.
and maybe get on the train and leave the baggage on the platform, and then just sail off into the bright future, if
Yeah.
you like.
And like you said about cutting those cords and so on, and how, and it can happen a lot in families.
Yes.
You can choose your friends.
Yeah.
You can't choose your family.
Correct. And not every member of your family may be a nice person.
They're not always got the best
But
intentions
you've
for
selected
you.
them. You've
Yeah.
selected your mum and dad.
Yeah.
Your mum may be an alcoholic and your dad's angry and all the rest of it. You selected them. That's what you wanted to experience. Maybe, and again, this is woo-woo, in a past life, you were the angry alcoholic, and so you've got to see the other side of it to balance the karma.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, the more I get into this and start looking at reasons and people's journeys and even my own journey, the more you start to realise the bigger picture. And even what's going on in the world at the moment, COVID is a negative thing if you get it, but it's doing an awful good job, positive job of waking people up and making people realise
what they want in their
there's
lives.
a lot of skullduggery going on out
Yeah.
there. Yeah, and then they've also had 2 years sitting at home looking at themselves. What do I want?
Well, they either went drinking frenzy at the beginning,
Yeah.
eating lots, piling the weight on, or they went the opposite end like I did, and it was pure awakening for me. I was like, right, I've got to do this, and I've just not stopped. Since I've got my first 2-week holiday in April, and I can't wait. My first 2-week holiday in 20 years. And I'm like, I can't wait. 2 weeks of being in the forest for a week.
Brill.
Doing outdoor pursuits, because that's just me. Bushcraft, and just being with my family and being still.
Mm-hmm.
And, and we forget that. We
Going
forget
back to
that.
Nature.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm lucky that we've had all our garden done and everything, and we've got fire pit and all the other bits and pieces, so we can escape out in the garden and have emptiness, if that makes any sense. Good emptiness.
Well, I would have said you're a bit of an elemental anyway.
So it's important for people to find that balance within oneself to get calmness, because a lot of people can't cope with being on their own or having stillness.
Well, no, because if you're not happy on your own and you don't love yourself, there's nobody else who's going to love you the way you should love yourself. And it's like in relationships, you should be independent and love yourself and have your life. And then your partner should also be the same, but yes, you want to come together to experience a loving relationship between you. But it's unconditional, it shouldn't be ownership, you know.
Other question I'm going to ask before we wrap up is crystals. Now,
yes,
I've always been attracted to crystals. I'm like first part of my journey, many years ago now. I was drawn to a crystal shop, and I remember going into the crystal shop when I was first qualifying and training in Maidenhead, going there and thinking, what are these all for? And I didn't have a clue. So explain what crystals are. Because what do crystals do? Because there's so many, and they do different different powers.
Different colours, different sorts of crystals, all have their own properties.
And what do properties mean? Because some people won't understand properties,
okay,
but
so
I understand
maybe
it.
if you get like a brown crystal or something like that, and you can put it on your liver and it'll help your liver to heal, because your liver is a similar colour. So you can link things up that way. Clear quartz, for instance, it can amplify energy. So if I'm using it to maybe get a pain out of the knee, then I'll probably use a bit of clear quartz or something like that. Carnelian is like an orangey reddy colour, that's about cleaning blood. So there are different things you can use for crystals. You do have to be careful though.
Yeah, because I remember this. The lady
Yeah.
said to me in the shop, I was drawn to 2 crystals. One was a pale blue, and one was, and it's astonishing. I went for the dark green, basically, and that is, as a light worker, a healing
Yes.
tool, and you need to be trained to use it.
Yeah.
And I look back on it, I'm like, wow, I understand why she said it now, because I've got my little books and everything. I'm not a
Yes.
crystal healer, but I use crystals and stuff at home, all around the house, and my kids have crystals as well. And as I would say, what you're drawn to and so on, but they work.
Yeah, they do. If you
They work.
if you get shungite and put it next to your Wi-Fi and things like
Yeah.
that, it helps to get rid of the EMF.
Yeah,
If you wear black crystals, especially around your neck, it's a form of protection, and also it deflects any negative energy that's coming at you. You have to be a little bit careful of clear quartz on people that have got cancer, because it can speed up the cancer growth and stuff like
Yeah.
that, because it's an amplifier. So you wouldn't use it on.
yeah,
But like you say, the best thing to do is, if you're going in a crystal shop, is to see what you're drawn to, and then go and consult one of the encyclopedias to find out why you've been drawn to it and why it's going to help
you see the compounds and everything, and where they come from, and their
Yes.
meanings, and what they can do, and you're like, wow.
Well, Native American people say that they are live, they are rock people. They have a vibration, they have a consciousness, but we just don't realise it. It's the same as plants, we all just think they're inanimate things, but
No, they're not.
they have a consciousness.
Sam would agree at Gather Social that no, we're drawn to plants. There's plants
Yeah.
everywhere in the studio.
Well,
It
look at
cleanses
what
the
they
air.
can do for health, and most of them are medicinal. And there's even hidden things that we don't realise that part of shamanic healing is to remove what I call unwanted lodgers. So people may pick up entities in bars, or hospitals isn't a bad place for them, and you bring them home, you don't even know you've got it. I had a heart bypass 2 years ago, and after the bypass I had an entity attachment which I picked up on a surgical instrument from the guy who went down before me.
Yeah.
Not that they hadn't been sterilised and all the rest of it, but the energy was still there. And then the
Because what we don't realise is the material.
Yeah,
And the same with the crystals, it's the material.
indeed.
It absorbs.
Yes, yeah. And so I've been wandering around with this entity and attachment, and apparently I wasn't a very nice guy. And then I realised, and I went to another shamanic healer, and she took it off for me. And then I went back to the normal Kev instead of this miserable grumpy Kev that I've become.
No, just the one at Hogwarts, it just makes me smile.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Kev, for today.
I thank you for welcoming me and
That's
bringing me in.
alright, okay. There's going to be a lot of stuff there that people are going to go,
Yeah,
I
as
understand
usual.
that,
Yeah.
but please reach out. If you feel that you're blocked in any shape, way and form, we can help you at Eternal Being. You can contact myself, contact Kev. Details on that are going to be at the end of the podcast, and it'll be on our YouTube channel as well. So we're going to welcome Kev back again, and we're
Glutton for
looking
punishment, eh?
we're looking to case studies, I think, because I think reality of case studies is really relevant for people, because again, that taboo subject of people that doesn't matter if you don't believe in God and angels and all the other bits, but if it's clearing you, it's clearing you. You know, and help people understand that the most basic person, the most cynical person, can change their lives.
Yes. And without having things like that to relate to, and which is why we go through so much stress and trauma. If we haven't been through it, how can we relate to the client?
Yeah.
Whereas if we've experienced it and got ourselves through it, we're in a better position then to help the client move forward.
Yeah. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
It's been amazing. I could talk to you all
It's
day.
been a pleasure.
It's great fun. Thank you, everybody. See you later.